Sometimes being an only child is not that bad sometimes. Sometimes it's bad being an only child, sometimes not. And the reason why I say is that, I remember this time of my life when I was like 12 years old, and, I lost my mom, where I remember I could actually remember that, we had actually having a dinner. We all just like sitting on the table, and then all of a sudden, she started choking, and she just passed away. Mind you, I was young at that time. I was young, and I experienced that, and it was just like painful for me. I couldn't, I still can't, I still can't remove that day on my mind, because it was just like every time that I sit down with myself and I just reflect, it's about my family, reflect about my mom, and seeing her pass away the following morning, I was told that she passed away. We had a funeral the next morning. Everything was planned out. I had no chance to actually go to the funeral. My dad was like, you too young, you can't go to the funeral and all that kind of stuff. And I was actually pissed off. I'm like, yo, why can't I go to my mom, to the funeral? And he's like, no, you're too young. Stay at home, just relax. We don't go to the funeral. And it was just sad. I was just sad at that point. I don't think I was able to sleep. I remember just crying out myself. I was like, let me go somewhere else. Let me just go cry by myself. Go to bed, sleep, wake up, and that was just a moment that I was like, you know what? I just lost someone. I just lost someone. Being 12 years old. I'm 25 right now. I have not really I haven't really spent much time with my family. It's just like my mom, and just like it's tough. It's tough now. When your mom's not around. You lose that part of one part of soul, one part of your hand, and she was gone, and I couldn't just. I still think about it to this day. I still think about what would happen. If she was right here with me. 25. Guide me, whatever that guy go through. She'll be there for me, but. I think ever since he passed away, I had my dad I was living with, and I had my so-called sister that I was also living with. So it was like a journey, and I was going to school back and forth, which was pretty cool. And I can remember that at some point in that life, my dad traveled, and he came to this country right here, and I had to go live with one of my aunties, and I think she had like three daughters that I was living with. So it was like it was pretty kind of fun. When I went over there, so it was experience. It's an experience that that I was living with her for like 2 or 3 years or 4 years. I can't remember, but it was a long time. And each of those three daughters had different personalities. One of them had a personality of just being quiet, being introvert, just quiet, by her own business. You have the other one who was more like in between, kind of quiet, kind of like a sneaky, be on the phone, talk to this guy, and all that kind of stuff. And you have the other person who would just love to go out, just experience life, go to party and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like a chill person. I was like an adopted guy, just mind my own business. And they were just trying to like kind of invite me into their household, kind of like when you get adopted and people just try to like be happy, trying to like bring you in, trying to be like hey, welcome to the family and stuff like that. So I did kind of like experience that, which was kind of fun. It was a good experience that I had. And then after that, it was a pretty good place. I went to school over there. I think I was in high school at that time, and then after that, I transferred. After that, they moved me again, and I had to go live with my uncle. And I actually stayed with my uncle for like about 2 or 3 years, and then we actually traveled and then came back to the United States, because it was a whole process. So being back home, having to transfer it, and me living with three daughters, and also going to school over there and learning stuff, and then experiencing what life was over there was about. Since I was also 12 at that time, I had no clue what's going on. And me being, I think I was about 20, I think I was 20 years old, 20 or 21 years old before I came to this country right here. And I remember coming to this country right here, and it was during the winter time. It was winter time, and it was really cold. We landed from the airport. It was me and I think it was me and a certain lady. I think it was one of my dad's friend, I believe. And yeah, we traveled and we came to this country right here, and we moved to my uncle's house. I stayed at their house for a couple, I think a year, 2 years or 3 or 4 years now, I believe 2 or 4 years. Where which was in New York City. I currently live in Jersey right now by myself, so it was in New York City that I went to high school in New York City. Um, Yeah, I was in eighth grade. I was from eighth grade to 12th grade to high school. And I graduated in 2019, and I was still living with my dad. I was still living with my dad. So currently, when we came over here, there was a little bit of argument in my uncle and my dad. So it was like a family issue going on, and me. I was just like out of the story. I didn't want no part of it. My uncle has like one. He has one daughter and he has one son, and they both were going to school at that time. And this was like this family issue, just like a it's like my uncle's wife and my dad had this issue back and forth. They didn't really want us, me and my dad, to be in your household because they have their own house. So they were like, you know what, you guys, I want you guys to find your own house and stuff like that. So which was it was kind of fair enough. It's your house. You could do what you want to do. I understand that. So my dad, found this house, and this is where I live here right now. I still live with him. Well, he passed away. I still live in this house right here. It's not really a great place, but 400 for a house, I'll take that. It's nothing. It's not that expensive for me, so I like where I am. So I've been living here for like 7 or 9 years now, almost 10 years, I guess. So yeah, it's been a rough. So yeah, I think 2 years ago my dad passed away, so it was kind of like life was really in the balance for me. I was just going to school. My dad was working at Home Depot, where I currently work at. Um, and yeah, I really I think I had a really close bond with my mom more than my dad, because my dad, he was kind of like, I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. I appreciate everything he's done for me. But I think I think I like my mom better than my dad. If no offense, but I think when I was living with my dad, it was more of like learning. My dad passed away when I was 25 years old. I'm gonna come back to how my dad passed away and how I knew about it. Um, so yeah, I think my bond with my dad was not that great. We didn't really have a good bond. I didn't really have a good bond with him because, he would like, the same thing is that I think he was around 70, 78. He was 75 or 78 years old around that time, and I didn't really, I like living with him, but it's just like sometimes, when you get to a certain age, and mind you, I was around like 21 or 20, 25, 20, no, 21 or 23 years old at that time. No, 21 or 24 years old around that time. And when you get to that age, you just realize that you wanna. And I'm the type of person that likes, like, peace of mind. I wanna be quiet. I wanna like mind my own business. Just like, I wanna let left right. I don't wanna like bother nobody. I wanna like, I don't want no issues with nobody. Just like, want my peace of mind and do what I gotta do. I have my laptop right here. I was going to school at that time, and also I was going to college at that time, and I was doing my classes and stuff like that. So it's really one of my time, peace of mind, and yeah, it just wasn't clicking. There were times that my dad would be sick, and I'm like, he basically just wants me to hang out with him, and I was not really having it because I didn't really want to go outside much, and he was just like, you get frustrated, he would call my uncle something, like, yo, why is Josh not doing this or that? Why is he not like that? Stuff like that. And my uncle would be like, you know what? He'll get used to it, one day he's gonna learn and all that kind of stuff. So that was just my side, I was like that. I was like, you know what, I'm just mind my own business. I'm just, social distance from him, So it wasn't really that great, but at the end of it, I just learned from it, learned that, some of the things that I actually learned. And also I was living with my dad when I was in high school as well. So I graduated and I was in college, and I was actually living with him, and he was behind rent, I think. And he was actually the reason why I got my job. When Home Depot, he used to work at Home Depot, and I got a job. And yeah, so I started working there around 2019, I believe. And so now, 2026, I'm still working at Home Depot. I'm getting my promotions, getting my pay raise. It's hard work, which, I do appreciate. And I do appreciate him for getting me that job, because without that job, I don't know where I'll be right now. I don't know. I might be doing DoorDash, or I might be doing Uber Eats, or I might be doing some online stuff. I don't know. I really don't know, but I'm just glad I got this job. It's not really a good job, but pays bills, right? As long as it pays the bills, it gives you some money. I'll take it. I'll take it all day. At the end of the week, I get 500, 560, almost sometimes when I get 600. So I can't really complain much. It is what it is. So yeah, definitely. It's been back and forth, but I can't really complain. I got move forward. So yeah, he passed away when I was 20. 24, I believe, and I was actually at work at that time, and I had no clue about. I didn't know about it, and um, my uncle actually was trying to make me come to his house so I could like get. He just wanted to like come to his house so he could tell me the news. Like, yo, your dad passed away. So yeah, I think I was. He told me like several times, like 2 or 3 times, like, yo, your dad passed away. He was trying to tell me like my dad passed away. He didn't want to like tell me direct like, yo, your dad passed away. This is what's gonna happen. We're gonna have the funeral and this and that. So no. So basically, he was just like, hey, Joshua, you work at Home Depot. I want you to buy me paper tissue, buy me a soap, buy me a wrench or anything like that. Buy me something and just bring it over to New York City. So he could just tell me like, yo, your dad passed away. And I was like, okay. So I ended up buying something. I can't remember what it is. So I bought something and I went to his location, and it was me, my uncle, his wife, and some other guy that I knew from church. And at first I was like, yo, what the hell is going on? And mind you, before that, right? Before the day before this, right? I had the feeling something was in my mind. Something was actually in my mind was saying, yo, something bad happened to my dad. Because I knew before he traveled, he was saying he's going to travel, he's going back home to do this and that. You have a building. I'm going to make a building for you. I want you to finish this job for me, make this house brand new. I want you to build that house for me, all that kind of stuff, which is good to see. So he traveled and went to the hospital, and my uncle was like, so technically my uncle basically said, your dad passed away, he had a dream of you just like, ignoring your phone calls, he could call you, pick up, he's calling you Joshua, 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 why you not responding, stuff like that. And that hit me. That sent a message to my mind. That just from that day onward, that just hit me, and I'm like, wow, this is truly not what I thought to be. But I think I actually, because the day, like I said, the day before that, I had the feeling there was something in my mind. I don't know. Sometimes I like to think ahead of certain things, and I don't know. Sometimes just like, yo, Joshua, something bad happened to your dad. Something bad is going to happen, or something like that. Sometimes I tend not to like think of the worst, because sometimes when you think about the worst, it's more likely to happen. So I try not to like think about that. But when he told me that, they were like, hey, Joshua, if you want, you could stay here for the night, or you could just go home. The choice is up to you. I was like, I told myself, you know what, I'm gonna go home, rest my mind, because the next day was actually a Sunday, and I was actually going to work on that day. So I was like, I'm just gonna go home. I'm gonna take it. I'm going to calm down, and I'm gonna calm myself down. So I ended up. They told me all that stuff, and I ended up just leaving the house. I took the bus, go on the train to go to work, and I was just. As soon as I got home, I went in the shower. I was just crying, like, oh my gosh, because I just lost my dad, and he was the only one that was actually the only person that was with me, because I don't have my mom, I don't have no dad, I don't have no. I'm the only child basically, and nobody was just around me. So to 25 right now, and I don't know. I do not know how I've made this far, because there's some times that I was like, hey, I'm 24 years old. What is life? What is life if I'm over here just like experiencing life? What's the point of life if I'm just like waking up, going to work, waking up, going to work every single day? What is life with no family, nothing like that? And there was a chance that I was trying to get adopted. I was like, yo, Joshua, I might as well get adopted, because what is the point? I don't have a family. Holidays come up and there's nobody to celebrate with, and it was just sad. But overall, where I am right now is all about. I've learned so many things, and also being an introvert also helped out, because being an introvert sometimes, I take I take my lonely. I like being lonely sometimes. Being lonely like clears my mind. I could be playing a game right now. Like I would just come back from work sometimes, and I would just like sit down, play a game, shut off my mind. Not like I'll just pretend like nothing's happening outside. I could just go on sleep mode, just be playing a game, and my mind is just like blacked out. And I'm like, yo, wow, why, what's going on? And I come back to realize this, like, yo, I'm just playing a game. My mind is somewhere else. I can't really, focus well. I can't really think straight. I've had a long day, and here I am. You know, but overall, I can't really complain. 25. Got a job. I live for 100. But when it comes to like family wise and stuff like that, definitely in future at this one, if for the day that I decide to have my own family, definitely spending time with your family is important. That's one thing I learned. Being single, or should I say, having no family. You go on the train, on the bus. Just realized that when I was living with my dad, we didn't really spend time together. We just like kind of like gripped up, grip. We had like our own bond of like separating. He tried to like get together with me, and I'm like I'm like social distancing. I'm just like I don't want to be part of him. I just want to like let him be. So to him, it felt like I wasn't trying to be his friend or something like that. So he actually that's something I learned, and also spending time together is important. Family time is always important. Always find time to learn to spend your family, whatever it is. Try and spend time with your family. They could be sick. You never know when their last day could be. So that's something that I try to like learn. So I think that's something that always, when I think about it, during the holidays as well, that's something, always try to think about, family time is always important, there's nothing that, there's nothing you could do about it, they're all gone. My dad is gone. My mom has passed away, the only child left, I gotta do the best for myself, do the best for my future people, my future wife, my future kids, try and better myself, so that, it's a journey ahead. So, I feel like ever since that my dad passed away, the next day was a Sunday. I feel like my life is just my days just started from right there. I got the job right here. I gotta pay his rent because he was actually behind rent. Because I had to pay. It was a lot of money actually, though. But I did pay everything off though, so it was pretty cool to see that at least the person where I live at, the person is actually cool. So I did pay off that rent, all that kind of stuff, and yeah, now it's just about just me focusing on myself. Trying to like do well for my job, do well for my future self, try and build my life up, try and build something better for myself. And, life will take place. It's not about just like, playing games, doing YouTube, all that kind of stuff, It's more than that. It's more, spending family time, spending time with your loved ones, when I have one, spending time with my girlfriend, in case I have one, and that's all that matters. That's what life has taught me. Being 25, I don't really go outside that much, so that's also something that I definitely gotta do. Spend time. You gotta go outside. You gotta come out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you gotta go outside, eat, spend time, get to know one another, and it's something that I look forward to. It's something you gotta break the ice. Sometimes you gotta break the ice. If you can't do that, there's no point of just like figuring out what's out there for you. So I do think that's something that's when my life changed. That's when my dad passed when I got the job, and every single day I wake up, I go to work, come back home. There's always something new happening. I get on the train, I see everybody happy. Their family right here. People with their girlfriends, boyfriends. They have a husband. You got husband and wife on the train, the bus, whatever, and you just look at them. Especially on holidays. Holidays is one of the main reasons that I look at myself and I'm like, yo, you know what? If I do have something like this, I gotta cherish that moment. I gotta have fun with it, and that's my turning point right there. And so far, I'm 25. I've come a long way. 21 to 25. I feel like I've done a good job, and I do feel like my parents will also be proud of me the way I've made my life choices so far. It's been self observant, self aware, but I could do better. But so far, I like where I am right now. 25 years old. I still have my job. I'm doing YouTube right now. Hopefully, in a year's time, I'm making. I'm a full time earner. But for now, I like where I am. Life has definitely changed. Losing my parents, and it's never easy. It's never easy being alone. Being the older child, you gotta experience a lot of things, and experiencing me, my personal mom just passing away just in front of me, and my dad traveling for him to pass away, and for them to tell me like how he passed away is just it's ridiculous, and I just can't. I can never forget about it. I can never forget about it. So, yeah, that's how my life changed to now 25. I know I'm still a long way to go, but I like where I am right now. I feel like I've made my life choices better, but I could make better. But so far, I like where I am, and we're gonna keep up forward. Every day has its own day of something new. Tomorrow's gonna be another day. I'm gonna work tomorrow. Who knows what might happen tomorrow, and we'll see. But so far, like I said, that's how my journey's been so far. 25 currently right now. So the year just started. So let's see how this year goes, and hopefully by the end of the year, something good happens, and hopefully something bright, good, lovely thing happens to my life, and see what happens. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think below. Like, comment, subscribe below. Let me know what you guys think below my videos as well. And it's my outfit. Looks pretty cool, right? Yeah, I think so. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Peace.